episode of One Man's Opinion, where I review professional theater across Connecticut and Broadway. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. Everyone else, thank you for returning and supporting my channel. Today's episode is Playhouse on Park's production of Seth Rozin's Two Jews Walk into a War, directed by David Hammond and starring Bob Ari as Zeblyan and Mitch Greenberg as Ishaq. As the title suggests, this is a comedy. It's about the last two Jews alive in Kabul, Afghanistan in 2002 after the invasion of the U.S. in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. The play is loosely based on two real men, Zeblyan Simitov and Ishaq Levine, who were the last known remaining Afghan Jews. Now, based on what I've heard, there may be a range of opinions on this show, both positive and negative, but for me, I found it rather hilarious and also sensitive and inspirational at times. Now, the story follows the two men as they attempt to transcribe the Torah from Ishaq's memory with the intent to use it to bring a rabbi to Kabul to attract Jews back to Afghanistan. And much of the play focuses on Ishaq reciting the text while Zeblyan writes it down. And I've heard multiple people compare it to Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, but I don't think that's fair for either play. Beckett's play is much more existential, and in that play, the two main characters are waiting for someone who never comes, while here, Zeblyan and Ishaq are making the efforts to repopulate the Jewish community in Kabul. Plus, the humor here for Two Jews Walk into a War is much more lowbrow at times. Though I did find Two Jews Walk into a War funny, it doesn't do much for originality in much of its humor. It is very dependent upon the comedies and artists of the past, like The Odd Couple or some Mel Brooks films maybe, and Monty Python. Monty Python specifically, I immediately had visions of the constitutional peasant from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and the argument sketch, and the Four Yorkshiremen, which are all fantastic sketches, and it's obvious that this play is very much inspired by that kind of humor. It can be a bit bawdy at times, particularly when Zeblyan inquires several times about the various sexual laws that God has given Moses in the Torah. So if you enjoy that kind of sense of humor, then you will likely enjoy Two Jews Walk into a War. Ari and Greenberg are hilarious. I have no complaints about them at all. Their timing is impeccable, and it is obvious the two are having a great time playing these odd couple roles, with Ishaq being the Felix analog to Zeblyan's Oscar. But all my complaints for Two Jews Walk into a War have to do with the text and direction. And even then, it only goes as far as you are willing to suspend your disbelief. Part of it is the accents. The men have that slight stereotypical Jewish male accent. It's not egregious and it's not over the top, but it does sit uncomfortably in my ear. There are actual videos of Zeblyan on YouTube that can be viewed, and I kind of wish that it was closer to that. Then there is where the bulk of the humor is dependent, and that is in the recitation of the Torah, and this is where the suspension of disbelief plays in as Ishaq recites the text in what we would define as King James English, with all of the these and thous that come with it. If they were going to be transcribing the Torah, it would have most likely have been in Hebrew. But much of the humor is dependent upon the King James English language and its use of punctuation. Of course, it wouldn't make much sense for the play to be in Hebrew for an English-speaking American audience, so a lot of the banter and enjoyments of the humor is dependent upon your ability to let that slide. Bill Clarke's scenic design of a dilapidated synagogue where the two men live is effective, and I really like the details of the costumes that Lisa and Steier designed for the play. What makes Two Jews Walk into a War a success for me, though, is the heartfelt connection the two men have for each other, in spite of how much they get on each other's nerves and how polar opposite their personalities are. The devotion they have to their faith and their willingness to keep serving their God in the hope of revitalizing what, in most anyone else's eyes, would have been a lost cause. The transcription scenes run a little too long, but otherwise, sure, it's an enjoyable play. I really liked it. And that's one man's opinion of Two Jews Walk Into a War. Please leave yours in the comments below. If you're interested in attending, I'll leave a link to Playhouse on Park's website in the description box below. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. The next review is currently in flux, as I got a notice Monday that press invites to Lackawanna Blues has been postponed due to Ruben Santiago Hudson's back injury, which means the next review will be likely ACT of Connecticut's production of Smokey Joe's Cafe. Well, that about wraps it up. The play runs through October 10th. Beyond that, I've got nothing else to add. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you at the theater.